You know that feeling, right? You're outside, enjoying a perfect evening, and the next thing you know, you're covered in these incredibly itchy bites from an enemy you literally never even saw. Well, if that sounds familiar, this explainer is for you. Today, we are putting together a natural battle plan to take our yards back from one of the most annoying pests out there, the No-See-Um. Okay, let's get into it. It's such a simple question, but the answer is so frustrating. It's that pest that's so small you can barely spot it, but its bite? Yeah, you definitely feel the aftermath of that. They just seem to show up out of thin air. All right, let's meet our opponent. The scientific name is Ceratopogonidae, but we all know them as No-See-Ums, biting midges, or maybe even sandflies. These things are tiny. We're talking just 1 to 3 millimeters long. And just like with mosquitoes, it's the females that are the problem. They need the protein in blood to lay their eggs, and when they bite, their saliva causes a histamine reaction in our bodies, and that is what creates those painful, maddeningly itchy welts. So, to win this thing, we need a solid strategy. Here's the game plan. First, we're going to get to know our enemy. Then, we'll go straight for their breeding grounds. After that, we'll build some physical barriers, call in some natural allies, and finally, we'll talk about how to protect yourself directly.
Every good battle plan starts with good intel. So to beat the midge, we've got to understand how it lives, where it breeds, and basically how it operates. So check this out. No-See-Ums have a 4-stage life cycle, but here's the key. The first 3 stages, so egg, larva, and pupa, all happen in moist, damp places. An adult can pop up from an egg laid in wet soil in just 2 to 6 weeks. That is a really fast turnaround, and it's their biggest strength. But you know what? It's also their greatest weakness. And that brings us to the absolute most important part of our strategy. Instead of just swatting at the adults buzzing around, we are going to the source. We're going to attack the one thing they absolutely cannot survive without. Okay, this is it, the golden rule. If you want to control No-See-Ums, you have to control moisture. It's that simple. Their larvae can't handle being dried out, so a dry yard is basically a no-go zone for these pests. And here's your action plan. This is stuff you can do right now. Start by fixing any leaks from faucets or sprinklers. Rake up all that damp leaf litter. That's basically a 5-star hotel for them to lay eggs. Got soggy spots in the yard? Work on improving the drainage. If you mow your lawn a little shorter and thin out some of those super dense bushes, you let more sunlight and air in, which helps everything dry out faster. And finally, keep your compost and garbage bins sealed up tight. Every single one of these steps makes your yard way less of a midge factory. All right, moving on to our next tactic. Now that you've made your yard a less inviting place for them, the next step is to physically block any that still manage to show up. Now this is a classic mistake. You might think your window screens are keeping you safe, but if they're standard 16 mesh, you might as well have a welcome mat out for No-See-Ums. Remember, they're only 1 to 3 millimeters big. They can crawl right through those holes. You've got to have a finer mesh, something like 20 by 20 or even finer to actually block them. Yeah, it might cut down on the airflow a tiny bit, but it's a guaranteed way to keep them out of your house or off your porch. And when you're outside, you can actually create your own little no-fly zone. See, No-See-Ums are terrible flyers. They're just not built for it. So a simple high-velocity fan on your deck can create an air current that they just can't handle. Dressing smart helps too. They're less attracted to light-colored, loose-fitting clothes. And of course, if you can, try to avoid being out during their favorite times to feed, which are right around dawn and dusk. Okay, so we've managed the habitat and we've put up our defenses. Now it's time to go on the offensive, and we're going to do that by recruiting some powerful, all-natural allies to do the fighting for us. First up in our lineup is a microscopic super soldier called Bloody. You can think of it as a precision-guided missile that is aimed squarely at midge larvae. So how does this stuff work? Well, BT is a type of bacteria that's just naturally found in soil. When a midge larva eats it, specific toxins inside the BT basically shred its stomach lining. But here's the best part. It is incredibly specific. It's a surgical strike. It only harms the larvae of a few pests, like midges and mosquitoes. It is completely harmless to people, pets, birds, fish, and even super important pollinators like bees. You can just sprinkle granules of it, like the brand Mosquito Bits, over any damp areas, and you'll wipe out the next generation before they ever get a chance to bite you. Now, Bloody is kind of like our air support, but we also need a ground force. And for that, we're going to turn to another microscopic ally, the predatory mite. These mites, especially species like Stratiolaps semitis, are natural-born hunters that live right in the top layer of your soil. Their whole job is to roam around and devour the eggs and larvae of pests like No-See-Ums. So by introducing them into your lawn using products like Banich, you're essentially creating a self-sustaining army that works around the clock to keep the midge population down at the source. Okay, we've attacked their home base and we've deployed our allies. The final layer in our strategy is all about protecting ourselves directly from any of the stragglers that manage to get through our other defenses.
Okay, now, this is really interesting when you look at the data on repellents. We all know the conventional options with DEET or Picaridin work pretty well. But if you're looking for a natural alternative, the CDC actually recognizes oil of lemon eucalyptus, or OLE. And get this, one lab study that put them head-to-head against a species of biting midge found that OLE provided up to 100% repellency. In that same study, DEET only hit 75%. That's some pretty powerful proof that natural options can be incredibly effective.
You can also use your garden to your advantage. Planting things like marigolds, lavender, rosemary, or basil near your patio can help create a less attractive zone for midges. The strong smells that these plants give off can help mask your own scent and just generally discourage the pests from hanging around. But it's really important to remember, this isn't some kind of magical force field, right? It's a nice, complementary tactic that makes an area less appealing, but it won't get rid of them completely.
So let's just recap. Winning this war really takes a multi-layered approach. Step 1, eliminate their breeding habitats by getting rid of excess moisture. Step 2, build those physical barriers with fine mesh screens and fans. Step 3, deploy your natural allies, BTA and predatory mites to attack them when they're most vulnerable. And finally, Step 4, protect yourself with some effective repellents.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought. When we use these natural targeted strategies, we're not just trying to obliterate a single pest. We're actually working with nature to create an environment that's less hospitable for them and way more enjoyable for us. It's really all about shifting the balance back in our favor. Hey, if you found this battle plan helpful, do us a favor and like this explainer, and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks for watching.
You know that feeling, right? That tiny, invisible pinprick on your arm, then another, and another. That's the work of the biting midge, what most of us call a no-see-um. They are easily one of the most frustrating pests out there, but listen, you do not have to just surrender your yard to them. In this explainer, we're going to build a complete, multi-layered strategy to fight back and finally reclaim your outdoor space.
First things first, you gotta know your enemy. And the name No-See-Um is just frustratingly accurate, isn't it? These little flies are part of the Ceratopogonidae family, and their tiny size is really their greatest weapon. It lets them slip right through most of our defenses and land a surprisingly painful bite before you even realize they're there.
And here she is, our culprit, up close and personal. This is a female biting midge. At just 1 to 3 millimeters long, she is barely a speck. But just like mosquitoes, the female needs a blood meal to get the protein she needs to develop her eggs. And that's exactly why they bite. The saliva they leave behind has proteins that cause that crazy itching and irritation.
It's an infuriating experience, right? You're just trying to enjoy a nice evening outside, and all of a sudden you're covered in these itchy welts from an attacker you can't even see. This is the whole problem with no-see-ums, and it's why just one single tactic is pretty much doomed to fail. We've got to be smarter.
So let's start with the most immediate line of defense, protecting yourself. Before we even get into spraying your yard or setting traps, there are some simple but super effective ways to create a personal shield against these things.
Believe it or not, simple physics can be your best friend here. Unlike mosquitoes, midges just can't bite through clothing. So, long, loose sleeves? That's a great start. But pay really close attention to this next one, your window screens. A standard screen is like leaving the front door wide open for these guys. You absolutely have to upgrade to a 20 by 20 mesh or even finer to actually keep them out. And the easiest trick of all? A fan. Midges are terrible flyers. A simple breeze is literally all it takes to keep them away from you.
For any skin you have exposed, repellents are pretty much non-negotiable, especially around dawn and dusk when midges are most active. On the chemical side of things, DEET and picaridin are the gold standards. They're proven to be incredibly effective. The trick is to check the label and make sure it specifically says it works on biting midges. Now, if you'd rather go plant-based, oil of lemon eucalyptus, or LOE, is actually recognized by the CDC as a really potent alternative. Other essential oils can help a little, but they usually give you very short-term protection in a really small area.
Okay, so your personal shield is up. Now it's time to expand that defense to your entire yard. We're talking about creating a chemical barrier, a sort of no-fly zone that works around the clock to stop midges before they even get a chance to find you.
The key players we're going to talk about here are called synthetic pyrethroids. So what are they? Well, basically, scientists looked at the natural insect-killing properties of pyrethrins, a substance found in chrysanthemum flowers, and then they engineered a more powerful man-made version. For an insect, they're a neurotoxin. They just totally disrupt their nervous system, leading to paralysis and, well, you know.
Now, within that chemical family, two names pop up all the time: bifenthrin and permethrin. They work in a similar way, but they have really different strengths. Think of bifenthrin as your marathon runner. It's designed for the long game. It binds to surfaces, like your house siding and your plants, and it can last for up to 6 weeks, perfect for a perimeter barrier. Permethrin, on the other hand, that's your sprinter. It gives you a much faster knockdown, and it's often used for things like treating clothing or in fogging systems for more immediate but shorter-term relief. And look, this isn't just a theory. The results are incredible. I mean, just think about what a 98% reduction in landing rates really means. That is an absolute game changer. You're creating a protective bubble around your home where midges just can't survive long enough to bother you. Okay, now this is really, really important. These are powerful chemicals. Using them safely and responsibly is everything. That means you have to read and follow the product label to the letter. This protects you, your family, your pets, and also all the non-target creatures like bees and aquatic life that are so vital to our ecosystem.
All right, so beyond personal repellents and yard barriers, there is another level of control we can talk about: area-wide tactics. These are technologies that are designed to cut down the total number of midges flying around in your space at any given time.
This is probably one of the biggest questions in all of pest control. We've all seen them, right? Those propane-powered traps that hum in the corner and promise you a midge-free yard. They work by pumping out carbon dioxide to mimic our breath, which lures the insects in. But the real question is, does catching a whole bunch of midges actually mean you get bitten less?
So here's the honest truth about CO2 traps. Yes, they are incredibly effective at capturing midges. I mean, some studies have shown them catching thousands upon thousands in a single day. But, and this is a really big but, the scientific evidence that this actually leads to a meaningful drop in the number of bites you get is pretty weak. The traps might be catching a ton of them, but if your yard is a great breeding ground, they may not catch enough to get the population below what we call the annoyance threshold.
This brings us to another choice: fogging versus that barrier spray we talked about earlier. Fogging gives you that instant gratification. It kills what's in the air, right now, but that's it. As soon as that fog clears, new midges can fly right back in. A residual barrier spray, on the other hand, is a persistent solution. It sticks around on surfaces, creating that protective zone that keeps on working for weeks. For long-term control, the barrier spray is the clear winner, hands down.
So, we've looked at personal shields, chemical barriers, area-wide tactics. We've thrown a lot at you. Now, let's put it all together. Because the most effective approach isn't about picking just one of these, it's about integrating all of them into one master strategy. All right, here it is, your 5-step battle plan. Step 1 is the foundation. Get rid of their breeding grounds by managing moisture. Step 2, build your physical fortress with the right screens and fans. 3, always use personal protection when you're out there. 4, during peak season, it's time to deploy that long-lasting bifenthrin barrier spray. And finally, step 5, and this is so important. Remember that this is not a one-and-done job. This is a continuous process. And really, that brings us to a final crucial way of thinking about this. This isn't about a one-time war that you win. It's about becoming a better, smarter steward of your own backyard. The goal is to create an environment that's a sanctuary for you, but is completely inhospitable to them.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into controlling these invisible enemies.
We really hope this multi-layered strategy gives you the confidence and the tools you need to finally take back your yard. If you found this explainer helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more clear, concise guides. We'll see you in the next one.